Mini episode 1133 of the FDH Lounge is brought to you by Sportsology, delivering unconventional columns and webcasts about sports, TV, music, movies, and more. Follow them on the web at sportsology.com.
The FDH Lounge. You want to schedule your life around it.
A long time ago, on a gloomy, wet Cleveland spring night, two men stand alone amidst the late-night drizzle. Their voices echo across the vacant station parking lot as they debate the merits of the great American radio show that have been missing for far too long. On that night, an idea was born. That idea became the FDH Lounge. Welcome to the FDH Lounge.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to FDH Lounge, mini episode number 1133. This is FDH managing partner Rick Morris here. And today we've got one of my good friends in the lounge, longtime FDH Lounge dignitary Jake Digman, also MMA editor at the old FDH brand. And we are breaking down the huge heavyweight title fight, maybe the biggest of all time, some would say, but the second go-round for Stipe Miocic, Cleveland's own, and Daniel Cormier. Miocic at Cormier 2 in Anaheim. And what a huge, huge fight it was. Redemption. Stipe brings the World Heavyweight Championship home to Cleveland. And, of course, again, as we covered previously, Jake Digman, a longtime personal ring announcer for Stipe and good friend. We covered in mini episode 732, so exactly 401 mini episodes ago, the journey of Stipe Miocic as seen through the eyes of Jake Digman, going from the early beginnings at NAAFS all the way to the UFC World Heavyweight Championship for the first time. And so we bring Jake back on for the second heavyweight title run that Stipe has started. Jake, always a pleasure, my man. Great to have you here. Always a pleasure to talk Stipe with you as well.
Oh, thanks for having me, Rick. It's always a pleasure to come hang out in the lounge.
Yes, we love to have you. And again, you are one of our longest-running FDH Lounge dignitaries, all the way back to our shared days at the old Sports Talk Network, from which, of course, sprung NAAFS at that point in time, the old intersection that there used to be back then. And as I say, 401 mini episodes ago, we covered Stipe's journey leading up to that. You told a great story of what it was like being his friend, being a co-worker in the NAAFS promotion, and everything that you saw in the formative years of Stipe's career. Subsequent to when we recorded that, a little bit over 3 years ago, you go through Stipe ultimately losing the title last year, something that a lot of us saw as being tainted because of the eye pokes of Daniel Cormier, eye pokes that, of course, were present again this past weekend at the fight. Although this is one of these things where, much like Rich Carlis's quote-unquote game-winning field goal in the drive game between the Browns and the Broncos, nobody outside of Cleveland ever seems to notice that the field goal wasn't actually good. Nobody outside of Cleveland tends to notice the eye pokes, but guys like me and you pick up on that, Jake.
Yeah, and I mean, it actually got noticed, too, by quite a lot of people.
Okay.
There was a couple cartoon little animated videos online that were making references to it, and I can tell you, Stipe noticed it for darn sure, and he had an answer back for those eye pokes in this thing. Liver shots.
Oh, he did. We're gonna get to that. It was a thing where this fight, and the journey that Stipe went on, it was really, really, really unique, because this is a fight, and again, I'm somebody who, as we've covered numerous times on this show, I'm very fond of cross-sport comparisons, cross-sport analogies. You look at Ali's big trilogy of fights that had nicknames to them, whether it was the fight of the century with Joe Frazier in 71, whether it was the Rumble in the Jungle with Foreman in 74, Thrill in Manila, the third of the three Frazier fights in 75. And there were characteristics from some of those fights that were present in this one. Again, most of all, I'm thinking in terms of Ali, whether it be the Rumble in the Jungle, the way that he just sort of outlasted Foreman with the whole kind of letting him punch himself out kind of a thing there. This wasn't exactly what Stipe did. I mean, he wasn't intentionally trying to tire Cormier by taking the punishment early on, but it was an adjustment that he made, much like, I guess, some of the adjustments that Ali made that allowed him to outlast Joe Frazier by the skin of his teeth in the Philippines in 75. but the adjustments that he made, I mean, this is a thing where, again, I get the sense in the MMA world that we're going to remember this fight the way that a lot of people remember Ali's biggest fights, in terms of the story that was told between the two competitors, two legends in the heavyweight ranks. Do you kind of get the same sense that this is one that they're going to be talking about like 50 years from now as far as two greats at the pinnacle of their abilities and then the chess match back and forth?
I believe after Saturday night, that's when the rest of the world finally took notice that the greatest heavyweight of all time is Stipe Miocic. I don't even know how it could be within question at this point, especially when you look at what DC's resume was coming into this.
Yes.
Now, someone could say, oh, it's 1-1 and they have to have a third fight. No, they don't.
No.
DC himself said 9 times out of 10, Stipe wins.
Yeah, and I think we would agree with that based on the adjustments that Stipe made, based on the absence of the eye pokes being as decisive this time around as they were in the first fight. And this is a thing where, again, what I want to ask you about, because you have a very, very, very unique perch as somebody who both is an expert on MMA and as well as somebody who is as personally invested. I mean, I'm like a lot of people from Cleveland. I root for the guy because he's from Cleveland. I root for him because he's a friend of a friend. But the personal investment that you have in his journey and in watching this, what he went through in the first 2 rounds, especially the first round, I mean, I'm sitting there watching it, and I'm just dying. I'm just like, oh no, oh this is awful, oh no. Because I'd heard Chael Sonnen a couple days before the fight speculating that he thought that Stipe's layoff from being in a fight like this was maybe going to hurt him. And I don't know that I necessarily had the sense that that was the case. But things didn't look right early on. So, I mean, I'm feeling nothing but doom as I'm watching this. What was it like for you? Did you have still any kind of sense of optimism at that point, or were you thinking he's screwed?
Every time any of my friends say, I'm nervous until they win. All it takes is one shot, one thing for them to lose. So every single time I watch somebody that I know personally, and whether it's in the UFC or it's at a local show, every single time it happens, it's like that. There's that gut feeling in your stomach because you know in the sport anything can happen, as happened last fight, the first fight with DC. It just takes that one shot, and then that pit of your stomach goes and goes out. And it's like when I watch I feel like everything is, if this makes any sense, like it's sitting in the pit of my stomach. Mm-hmm. You know, that not feeling of dread, but like, oh, and it's like it goes one of 2 ways. It either drops out, they lose, or when they win, it's just like it was Saturday night, where it was just like absolute pure elation, and you're just like, oh my god! I don't think it's never a matter of not believing in them. It's just knowing the sport and knowing that anything can happen. That's like, oh crap! And especially on a level like this, like for example, the Jessica Ive title fight, where it was, oh man, and then Zig dropped out, and the next thing's like, okay, get back up, get back in there. Are you okay? Are you going to be all right? So it's really like a tale of 2 perspectives, tales 2 different outcomes, and it's 2 different emotions. But man, is it so much more fun, that elation, when that's said and done. It's almost like riding a ride at an amusement park. Yeah. Just like, am I going to puke or am I going to scream for joy? It's a lot more fun to scream for joy than it is to throw up after you get off the ride.
It really is, and again, I was immediately thinking of you on this here, and just feeling good for how good you must feel with your friend being restored to his rightful place in the world. And it's funny you mentioned about Jessica Eye, because I go back to I had a similar kind of experience watching that first round. I go back a couple of years ago. Being at your birthday party, we were watching her fight on national TV. It was on Fox. I think it was against Misha Tate. And that was a thing where, we kept yelling for her and get up and get out of it. But it was just, I'll speak for myself, just a sense of doom watching it. Like, oh, this is not going to end well. And she took it to a decision and lost on the scorecard, so she didn't get knocked out. But again, her fate was pretty much sealed.
Sometimes that's worse.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the Ninja. Do you remember the OG Ninja Turtles movie?
Yeah.
Ninja kicked the damn rabbit. Do something.
Yeah. Yeah, and
let him go right past you.
Yeah, and there can be a real agony seeing it go to the scorecards. And again, it's really, really interesting the stuff that comes out after the fight, because again, I think we were on a trajectory where if it went to the scorecards, I don't think it was going to end well for Stipe, because he would have clearly taken the 4th round and maybe would have taken the 5th. It just goes to whether you think Daniel Cormier swept the first 3 rounds or not, and I understand the judges' scorecards might not have reflected that, but I sure thought that Cormier pretty much had a strong edge going into the back half of the fight. So it's really interesting to me that Cormier seemed to be the one questioning about where he was on points, versus I would have thought he would have been the one that felt secure, and I would have thought that Stipe would have been the one thinking, I got to end this thing.
Well, one thing I've learned in my many years in this, being involved in MMA, is that you never know what those judges are going to see. It's not like boxing where there's an actual science to it. Okay, this many punches were thrown, this many punches were landed for this much damage. In MMA, it's it's gotten better over the years, but I think because of that the pre-existing condition, where a lot of fighters in the back of their mind are like, I can't make this go to the scorecards. Because you don't know how they're going to see it. On the topic you mentioned of DC and Stipe having to push the pressure, because you felt that, in your opinion, and a lot of people's, that DC was up on the scorecards. Greg Kalikas used to say back in the PKW days, way back when I first started, started learning about mixed martial arts and everything, and he was like, they have to, you should always have to beat the champion. Like, if it's a close fight, you need to beat the champion. You need to survive with the champion. Like, you should always have to definitively beat the champion. And I'm kind of, maybe that's the pro wrestler in me, but I kind of agree, a pro wrestler fan in me, I guess. I've never wrestled a match. But I just kind of see that aspect of it, where, you should have to beat the champion. And there's a statement that's made when you do it, especially the way that Stipe did Saturday night, capping off, which was, by the way, one of the best UFC cards I've seen in a long, long time, top to bottom, just from the beginning all the way to the end. And there's one other thing I want to bring up real quick, too. We'll circle back to Stipe. Stipe this is actually a really cool story that I think the listeners will appreciate. The other aspect was, on the undercard of this fight, on this event, was Devontae Smith, who is from NAAFS and RFO fame. Devontae fought one of the best fights I've ever seen in my life against John Gunther. He had 2 opponents drop out the week before the fight. 4 days before the fight, the Death Star Worthy out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, another NAAFS and RFO and Pinnacle Fight Championship, who's been around the local scene forever. Super cool dude, super friend. On Monday, he was working his day job, going to the gym, and by Saturday night, he had knocked out and Devontae Smith to earn a UFC contract, and also to earn a $50,000 performance bonus. Sure, Stipe, his payouts have been released out there, and I'm not discrediting him, and I'm happy for the champ, and he got a performance bonus of $50,000 along with the pay-per-view money. But it just inspires me that, and both my friends have inspired me in 2 separate ways. Stipe climbing back to the mountaintop and showing that you get knocked down, you get back on that horse, and you get back up, and you get what's yours. And Kama, also the same thing, not giving up, paying his dues, doing the grind, being around the scene, and then all of a sudden, overnight, you go from, local indie MMA journeyman to you're on a big show, and you had to go through one of your fellow brothers from the local fight scene community, and you just earned a $50,000 performance bonus on top of what you just did. That was pretty much, I don't know what Kama makes per year, but, that's life-changing stuff right there.
Well, we all know that Kama is the ultimate fighting machine with moves worthy of a godfather. So
I see what you did there. Pippin ain't easy, brother. Pippin ain't easy.
Yeah, I knew you'd enjoy that. You know what? Those are always cool stories. What that is similar to is another one of our FDH Lounge dignitaries, good friends, Anthony and Matt Petrone. A good friend of theirs is a guy who's driven a lot of race car circuits here in the Midwest. He actually got a chance to fill in at the Xfinity race at Mid-Ohio. So to actually get to race on one of the NASCAR stages when you're a journeyman race car driver, those are always cool stories. I'm always very happy to hear about those kind of things, get to hear people living their dream. And I want to get back to what you were talking about, money and opportunities in that momentarily. One more question to ask about the fight, and that is, if you think Cormier is being a little too hard on himself in terms of not making the adjustments as far as getting back in there and trying to take down Stipe again, because I look at it like, I think similar to what Chael Sonnen has said, that Stipe wasn't really affording him the opportunity with the jab. With the adjustment that Stipe made, he was keeping him at bay. I don't think Cormier had the ability to get in there and do takedowns. It's not just that he got away from it strategically. I don't think he could have if he tried. What do you think?
I absolutely agree with you, because if you recall in the fight, he actually did have a takedown that really weirdly lifted him up over his head, and I thought he was going for the whatever it was called, like the kryptonite crunch in WWE, or like white noise that Sheamus does.
Right.
I'm like, is he gonna? I'm like, what do you have him up there? I'm like, can he legally do this? And even when he got him down, which I believe ended up being an inverted Alabama slam,
right,
which is what he ended up slamming him with, he just got right back up. It actually exerted more energy from DC to carry his big ass around.
Yeah, he should have thought about that maybe. I thought with what looked like was going to be some head dropping there, I thought maybe New Japan Pro Wrestling had hacked the broadcast here for a second.
Right.
Because, you were expecting it to be one of those type deals, but in terms of money and opportunity and these things here going forward, again, yet another shame as far as Stipe having to take a back seat on the payday here to Cormier. I understand Cormier was the champ, but it's not like Stipe was ever getting dollars bestowed at his feet when he was on top. So you look at this, and yes, there is still opportunity to be made in that regard, but he's already proven, as you and I have said, and a lot of other pundits out there, the greatest of all time as far as the heavyweights go. If you look at his resume, if you look at who he's beaten in what has been a golden era of heavyweights, he stands alone at this point in time here. So this is a thing where a question that I get from some people who are more casual MMA fans in this town, who like Stipe, find him to be likable and just want him to be like okay health-wise going into his future. Like, when do you say is enough? Because he took a lot of punishment the other night with things like CTE. I understand these are things we don't want to think about, but this has to weigh into his calculus going forward, what he's going to be like in his older age and everything like that. He's already proven he's the greatest of all time. Yes, there's still some big money paydays to be made, but again, how would you kind of see that shaking out as far as the decision of how long to keep going?
At this point, again, this is a bit of the business side of things on this. Just strictly my opinion, is
sure.
Right now, if I'm his gym, Walter and Marcus and his camp and everybody, I'm sure they're all looking at this the same way. At this point, this stage of the game, it's all about the money. Mm-hmm. It's like those big money fights. Because, I mean, and this is sad, I can't tell you who the number one contender for the heavyweight title would be. I don't think the UFC could either. I mean, you got to think about this. There are two previous options they had. One was Brock Lesnar, who hasn't wrestled or fought since who knows, and just kind of strings him along. And the other one was a light heavyweight who just put on weight. Yeah. The only other fight I can think of on the top, the only one, I'll ask you this. What is the big money fight for Stipe that pops in off the top of your head, the first name?
Well, Bones Jones, I guess, if he wants to come up and fight him.
That's the only one that I can think of is Bones Jones.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head.
Yeah, and that's, now, again, there's a lot of people saying Ngannou, though, because he has been on another indestructible tear since the first Stipe fight, but there's still the burden of proof of what are you going to do to beat Stipe when he took you apart the first time?
Right. And here's the other thing, too. What does Stipe gain by taking that fight?
Nothing.
It's not like it's different from the DC fight because DCC beat the champ.
Right.
So the champ is getting his opportunity for a rematch.
Right.
He's definitively beaten Ngannou.
Right.
Now, I mean, nothing has changed to show that it was like, at this stage, Stipe just turned 37. We're actually the same age. He's actually like a couple weeks. He's a fellow Leo. He's a couple weeks younger than me. Mm-hmm. We used to celebrate birthdays back in the day. During the old rock and rumble days.
That's right.
Actually, his birthday was the day after he won the title, which is kind of cool.
That is cool.
But at this stage of the game, honestly, he's got a wife. He's got a beautiful daughter. Got a full-time job as a firefighter. Which the fact that they still haven't exploited that is amazing.
Right.
I mean, they have, but not as well as they should have. Like, he should be, like, out there on, like, the UFC should have him out there with, like, doing first responders appearances and stuff like that. People would gobble that stuff up. So it is, at this stage in where he's at, I think, he's 37. It's not this isn't an old man sport. I mean, unless you fight for Bellator.
Hey, now.
So I mean, it's the Bones Jones fight is really the only money matchup that will get a huge pay-per-view draw right now that I see. And then, after that, I mean, depends on how long he wants to go.
Right.
Has that fight. I mean, if he has that fight and he wins that fight, what's left?
Yeah.
There's literally nothing left. He's going to go beat up Conor McGregor.
Yeah. I like to see it. That'd be cool to see.
To see who?
That'd be cool to see him womp on Conor McGregor, but that's not in the stars, I'm afraid.
That'll never happen.
Right.
So that's just, I think we've reached a point now where it's like, okay, see what they have and who they're building, and go back to the renegotiation table, renegotiate, get the most. If he isn't paid more than his opponent as the champion this time around, it just shows the amount of disrespect that the organization has.
Yep. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to bring this all the way around by just reinforcing that point there and about what I will call the flat-out incompetence of the marketing of UFC. This notion of, Stipe just isn't as marketable as some of these other guys. You can't do something with a real-life Rocky. You can't do something with a guy who's a fireman, who's an everyman, who's a man of the people. Parents were immigrants. You can't do something with that story. This is shades of the NHL when they couldn't do anything with the Sedin twins, who are probably the most unique superstar tandem in the history of pro sports. I mean, this is why these organizations can't break out of where they're at to another level. UFC looked like they were going to do it a couple of years ago, and then they've pretty much run out of big marquee fights like this one. They used to have marquee fights on a more regular basis. And again, if you can't figure out what to do with Stipe, you're stupid. I'm sorry. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. And I bet, hopefully this time around they figure out what they're going to do with them. But for right now, it's just nice to see that belt back home where it belongs, and him chillaxing and taking some time off. And question for you.
Yes.
What do you think is next for DC?
Very interesting. I think, and I hadn't heard the comment that he made that you relayed there about how often Stipe would have won that fight. If he thinks that, I think it will be retirement at this point, because I don't see him taking another fight just to take a fight. The Lesnar thing is off the table. Bones Jones, if it's a big enough payday, maybe, but if he made that kind of a defeatist statement about beating Stipe, then I think he's done.
I could possibly see DC being the next one to make the jump over to the WWE for a big time match with Brock Lesnar.
Now that is a possibility.
I could see them setting up something.
Well, there was the possibility that he was possibly, maybe going to be a commentator on SmackDown that Fox wanted him to be, and that maybe that could be a jumping off point. Although, my God, I don't know how you'd get by without having Byron Saxton in the booth.
Zing.
We'll have to see how that all sorts out. But as always, a pleasure, Jake Digman. Great to have you in to talk about Stipe. Thank you for sharing your perspectives on this momentous occasion of Stipe bringing the World Heavyweight Championship back home where it belongs for a second time.
Can I do?
Yes, go for it.
What are you doing on September 21st?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Up in Euclid at the old Euclid Sports Plant. Remember that?
Yes.
Back in the day?
Yes.
It's going to be up at the Euclid Sports Plant. Strong Style Fighters, Steve Miller, I believe, is on the card. Mm-hmm. There's a couple other guys from Strong Style on the card. Cody Stevens, along with Bob Marshall, the promoters, really good guys that worked on my show. And it's in Cleveland, about 15 minutes from the champ's house, so you never know who may or may not show up at that show on the 21st in Euclid. I'm just throwing that out there. Can't make any promises, but a bunch of the champ's boys are from there.
Well, interesting.
The champ, a lot of them like to pop in at local events. So September 21st, you can see me ringing out. It's been a little while since I did that. Still got it, though. Ladies and gentlemen, in the red corner, please welcome Radio Morris. Yeah, still got it.
Euclid Sports Plant. All right, September 21st.
September 21st, Saturday, September 21st. Visit here on Facebook. It's BCM Promotions. There'll be ticket information on there for all the ticket information, and you never know who's going to show up.
Excellent, excellent. Well, you've really interested me in that. That sounds like something I want to check out. Hopefully, enough of our listeners out there can check that out as well. And what a boost for Strong Style in terms of not just Stipe's win, but how it happened. He's been really strongly in the post-fight interviews putting over his coaches for helping him to make the adjustments there. So those guys, I think, justifiably so, basking in the worldwide acclaim.
Oh, absolutely. Marcus, Pablo, Alex, Bob, and all those guys deserve. I mean, they're one of the best, if not the best, teams in all of the sport.
Yes.
I hands down. I really don't care what it says at this point. As you said back in the day, if you want to be a hater, then go be a hater. But the proof is in the pudding.
Exactly. We don't want to be haters here. Strong Style is great. Stipe is great. And again, glad you promoted that September 21st at the Euclid Sports Plant. Get to see some more great MMA fighting. Get to see Diggs putting on the old monkey suit to get in there and do the ring announcing. So that is always a plus. You've always got some great outfits, my man. Your sartorial chops, I'm sure, will be as strong as ever. So look forward to seeing that. Thank you so much for being here today, my man. And thank you, everybody, for checking out FDH Lounge mini episode number 1133.
As we bring the show to a close, we would like to extend our deepest gratitude to NBC, CBS, ABC, Fox, all Clear Channel affiliates, TNT, TBS, USA, UPN, Deadspin.com, YouTube.com, YTMND.com, MySpace.com, various blogs, Fox News, CNN, CNBC, MSNBC, IamBoard.com, Billboard.com, Google.com, ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN News, ESPN Classic, NBA TV, NFL Network, Sports Time Ohio, Athlon Magazine, Comedy Central, Cartoon Network, The Boomerang Channel, QVC, BET, The Spice Channel, Steno Notebooks, Manwich, Papermate Office Supplies, Waitresses, Strippers, Bartenders, Garbage Men, Janitors, Microwave Popcorn, the writers of The Office, Scrubs, Entourage, My Name is Earl, Oz, Metalocalypse and the Boondocks, Aquafina, and the periodic Table of Elements.